Hey guys, WebHeadGaming here, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Mega Man X3. To start things off, I'm going to tackle Blizzard Buffalo, and this is what the SNES boss intros look like. It's nothing spectacular, so for the rest of the game, I'm going to be replacing them with the FMV cutscenes, so enjoy. By the way, I absolutely love the typos they made there. Blizzard Buffalo? Really? Blizzard Buffalo. Okay. So this is Blizzard Buffalo's stage, and it's actually pretty damn challenging the first time you do it, because one of the things that absolutely sucks about X3, and I mean absolutely sucks, is the difficulty curve in the beginning. This game is so fucking challenging and brutal in the beginning, and it's all because of one reason, and that's the fact that for some reason they decided to make X incredibly fragile. Some of the enemies in this game have incredibly high damage output and will take down X's health bar incredibly quickly if you're not paying attention. Hell, the boulder enemies that we're coming up on, if you come into contact with them, they will take down more than half of your health. At least, to my knowledge, they take down more than half of your health. And that is absolutely ridiculous. Why did they have to chalk up the damage output for some of these guys? It's absolutely retarded. I know that patience and observation is the key to winning a Mega Man game, but for fuck's sake, some of this is just... I just find some of the damage output to be incredibly unfair in this game. The Mavericks? Might as well, half of them might as well be unbeatable the first time you try them, because they just dish out so much damage. Blizzard Buffalo, the Maverick we're taking on in a bit, I find him to be the easiest, but even he's not a walk in the park either, because he does so much damage if he comes into any contact with you. It's just, I just don't like how hard they made the beginning of this game, you know? I just don't like it at all. Anyway, we just obtained a Dr. Light capsule. You have to use a very precise dash jump to get to it, and by getting to it, we are rewarded with the leg parts. The leg parts function pretty much exactly the same as X2's leg parts, except it now gives us a upward dash, and it can be pretty useful for certain parts of the game. Right now I'm going to backtrack because there is a sub-tank here. You can get it by dash jumping, however, it's very pixel perfect. So instead, I'm going to be using the upward dash from the leg parts to obtain it. And now we've acquired most of the items that we're able to obtain here. We're going to go ahead, refill X's health, and pull out Zero. In order to play as Zero in the stages, you have to hit the right bumper button and switch and press start, I think. And you'll be able to activate Zero. Now, Zero, you know, he is stronger than X. He has a higher health bar than X. However, he's very, very situational. In fact, it's not really a good idea to be as him at all because he can't really do anything. He cannot collect items. He cannot collect Dr. Light capsules. He can't even fight bosses. So here we go. I'm going to try and fight this boss with Zero. X will interrupt me and say, "I'll handle this." And then we'll be switching back to X. By the way, you can only play as Zero once during a stage. And, yeah. So now we're at Blizzard Buffalo. Bleh. And Blizzard Buffalo, he is the easiest to take on out of the 8, but he is still a pain in the ass because of his damage output. What I'm doing right now is a little cheese to his AI. I guess he suffers a little bit of Toadman syndrome. Basically, every time when he looks at you, you can just jump up and he'll constantly hug the wall like a retard. It's super effective to take this guy out without much hassle. The reason why I'm just doing tiny pellet shots as opposed to charging up is because sometimes I just want to keep up with my mojo, and as you can see, I broke the flow and now his AI is acting normally again. So Blizzard Buffalo has 4 attacks, or actually 3 attacks, honestly. He can charge at you, he'll grow horns and try to ram at you. That's pretty much the exact same thing, so I don't really count that as a different attack. He'll fire his frost shield at you. That's probably his most annoying attack because it homes in on you. And it doesn't go away, it'll just stay there until you do something about it or until Blizzard Buffalo rams into it. His final attack is he'll fire a ice beam that will freeze you, but you can get out of it pretty quickly, so it's not even that big of a deal. And yeah, that's basically the fight in a nutshell. He can be a pretty hectic fight because he is pretty damn fast, and if he does run into you, he will do a fuck ton of damage. So do not underestimate Blizzard Buffalo. You know, he has a very simple pattern, but he is incredibly strong to make up for it. I died to this asshole a lot in this game. Even when I try my damnedest, I still find myself dying to this fucker a lot. But luckily, you know, with enough practice, with enough patience, you'll be able to take him down. He is very challenging for a first-time player, so just be on the lookout for what he does. And yeah, that's Blizzard Buffalo. So by defeating Blizzard Buffalo, we obtained the Frost Shield, which is actually not too bad of a weapon. It is slow, but it does do a good job at killing certain enemies, and it's great for farming sub-tanks because it will always drop health, which is pretty sweet. The charged up version of it, when we get the arm parts, makes this pretty cool barrier. It's pretty cool for taking down some of the smaller enemies, but not much else. Or a barrier, it's like a shield that X holds in front of him. But yeah. So up next, we're going to be tackling Toxic Seahorse. Enjoy the FMV cutscene. So for this playthrough, I am indeed going in weakness order, mainly because it's the one order I'm comfortable with, it's the one order I'm used to. I know it's probably the worst possible order to go in because of all the backtracking you're going to have to do by the end, but I'd rather have a tolerable time going through the stages than getting my ass kicked by the Mavericks over and over and over again. This actually segues us to one of my main issues with X3, and that's all the backtracking you have to do if you're not super skilled at the game. If you're not skilled at the game like I am, you're gonna have to do a lot of backtracking, and that's just not fun. I don't really like it at all. If you're really good at the game, then you can probably keep the backtracking to a minimal. Unfortunately, I am not skilled enough to take down any of the Mavericks besides Blizzard Buffalo with the X-Buster, so the weakness order will have to do. So you may be wondering what kind of items we have this time around. Well, the heart tanks are back. Speaking of that, up here is a heart tank. Kill the goon and you'll be able to obtain it. Not too complicated at all. The sub tanks are back. They still refill your health when you're in a pinch. However, you still need to collect energy pellets when your health bar is full in order to fill them up. And we still have Dr. Light capsules which give us armor upgrades. So there's really nothing new in terms of that. It's still pretty much the same thing as X1 or X2. However, X3 introduces the ability to summon ride armors. There will be these platforms that you'll find in the 8 stages. You can use them and summon a ride armor at will for you to use. In X1 and X2 you couldn't do this. They were only in specific parts of the game. But in X3 you can have you can use specific ride armors for specific sections, and that's pretty cool. The downside to this, however, the only way to use it is to go to Blast Hornet stage first and getting the ride armor there. But in order to get the ride armor there, you need to get Tunnel Rhino's weapon. So it's just really inconsistent. It's really inconvenient. That sub-boss is a joke. Its tentacles do not harm you, so feel free to dash under it, and its missiles should not be a threat. Ugh. Can't talk. But yeah, item collecting in weakness order is very inconvenient. It's just, I'm not really fond of it at all. Otherwise, Toxic Seahorse stage is pretty easy. It's not too difficult. Here, I'm going to go ahead and use Zero once more just so I don't have to deal with X taking a lot of damage. And maybe because, you know, I can brute my way with Zero. He's super strong. He's super beefy compared to X. Well, maybe not beefy because he still takes a shitload of damage himself, but at least he has a longer health bar. One thing I forgot to mention earlier when it came to the Blizzard Buffalo stage when I pulled out Zero, if you died as Zero at all in the playthrough, he's gone for the rest of the game. You lose your ability to play as Zero, and you also lose your chance of getting the good ending, which is freaking retarded. Why? Why is it that if you fuck up and die with Zero just one time, he's gone? Why not make it to where he's disabled for the rest of the stage? I don't get that whatsoever. Regardless, we are now at Toxic Seahorse, and Toxic Seahorse and pretty much the rest of the Mavericks in this game are pretty inconsistent with difficulty. When you fight them with the X-Buster, they're hard as fuck, and Toxic Seahorse is no exception. He's a very annoying boss without his weakness. But with his weakness, he's an absolute weakling. I mean, look at this. The weakness totally decimates his AI. He just keeps jumping back and forth, landing into the frost shield. That's basically the strategy. Every time he jumps, just fire the frost shield because it's a little bit slow. It has a little delay, and he'll run right into it. The weaknesses absolutely decimates the AI of certain bosses. It's really goddamn stupid, and this will become a recurring theme in this game as well in X4. And in X4, they managed to make it even worse. But I'm getting ahead of myself. By defeating Toxic Seahorse, we get the Acid Burst, I believe it's called. It's basically an acid bubble that splits into different acid bubbles. It's a pretty cool weapon. I'll talk more about it after this cutscene. Gee, that bald-headed figure looked oddly familiar now, didn't he? Regardless, this is Dr. Doppler, the main cause of all our problems lately, and this interlude cutscene introduces us to the main side quest of X3. So it basically introduces us to Bit and Byte, two Reploids that serve under Doppler, and throughout the rest of the game they're going to give you shit in the levels. They will randomly appear in a level like the X-Hunters did in Mega Man X2, although unlike the X-Hunters, these guys are mandatory to fight in order to beat the game, so be prepared for that. Bit will always come before Byte. He always shows up in either stages 3, 4, or 5. Byte shows up in stages 6, 7, or 8. When they show up is decided up to the game, so be prepared for that. And we're also introduced to this very familiar looking Maverick. Arm cannon, helmet that looks like Boba Fett. I wonder who looked like that. It could be a certain Reploid from X1, but let's not jump the gun. We'll talk about this guy later. He is also another alternate boss we can fight. And yeah, you may have noticed the rooms filled with nothing in Blizzard Buffalo and Toxic Seahorse stage. Those are the boss rooms for Bit and Byte. So when you show up at a room with nothing, that's your reason why Bit and Byte will show up there. I'll see you in the next part when we take on Tunnel Rhino.